We come up against all sorts of situations in our life. Some problems are quite easily solved. We can just do what we've always done. We can use a preformed habit pattern that just follows a set sequence, such as when we put on our clothes in the morning. We don't have to think first about what goes on before the next thing. How do I tie my shoelaces? What hand does my watch go on? These are all well-worn habits. So it becomes a bit like just pushing a button on a computer and the whole program is set off to complete the task. But other problems that we have are not so easy to solve. These ones we need to stop and consider a little bit. I wonder what might happen. Who do we need to involve? What are the pros and cons of what I'm thinking about? These are particularly good for bigger problems. Things like, do I want to shift to Wellington to live? Should I get a new job? Now, in order to be able to cope with such a wide range of situations, the brain runs two systems side by side that Daniel Kahneman simply calls System 1 and System 2. System 1 triggers a habit pattern. Now, the advantage of a habit pattern is that it's easy for the brain. So, if a problem is simple, predictable, and if I get it wrong, it doesn't really matter, then System 1 is perfect. Using System 1 tends to be unconscious. We just do what we do without thinking. We're operating on autopilot. Now, because System 1 is easier for the brain, it's the preferred default system. And because we have saved energy by using habit patterns when we can, we have energy available to cope with the heavy energy demands of System 2. System 2 is great for situations that are complex, unpredictable, and critical. In complex situations, we're not sure what's going to happen. We ideally need to take our time to gather more information, to look at it from different perspectives. Consider the various options that we've got. It takes longer for our brain to work out what to do. We need to consider all the possible ways that we might harm somebody else depending on which option that we choose. But a downside to this two-system arrangement is that we have to constantly and quickly decide whether to use System 1 or System 2. Sometimes we get it wrong. Now, if we choose System 2 when we should have chosen System 1, so that we stop and carefully think about what we're doing, we will probably end up making a pretty good decision, but we will have wasted a bit of brain energy and probably some time. The more troublesome error is when we should be using System 2, but we use System 1. When we should have stopped and thought more carefully about what we should be doing, we've just gone back to an old habit pattern from the past. Now, we form habit patterns from our past experience. We repeat what seems to work. And for most things that we do, tying our shoelaces, making a cup of coffee, eating a meal, going for a run, all of those things that we do every day, it works just fine. But we also have habit patterns for how we act when we feel angry, when somebody is annoying us, when somebody cuts in front of our car. Some of our habit patterns are really useful, but some of them are unhelpful and tend to create more problems than they solve. So, as I said, System 1 is the default. That means there is always a System 1 habit waiting to be set off. And if that's not a good idea, we have to switch to System 2. If we don't start up System 2, System 1 will happen automatically. System 2 gets activated by a deliberate decision. That means we must remain ever mindful of the situation that we are in and recognize when there's an old habit pattern that's not going to work in that situation. We can learn the skill by practicing paying attention to what we do. We can notice when others are upset and change how we respond. But we can also learn to notice the changes in our body more accurately so that we can notice when we're getting angry and we can choose to calm down, to go for a walk, to listen to calming music or whatever. But the key is noticing what is happening and making a deliberate decision to make a different decision.